Pryor was born in 1940. He died in 2005. Richard Pryor was an African American comedian. He was clean shaved, had a little mustache. He would travel all over the world, United States, and do stand up comedy. He was very goofy. He didn't have much of an education. He grew up poor. I think his mother was a prostitute. He didn't have a father. He had a hard life. He didn't have much schooling. He didn't have much education, and basically he grew up having drug problems. He was on drugs, marijuana, meth, alcohol. To deal with his mental issues. He had a lot of mental problems. Um, and I think that doing comedian was a way for him to get away from that life, to get away from the problems of his life. He did a lot of good movies. With the guy who played on Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. He was friends with him. With that white guy. They did a couple of movies together. He fell into major depression where he actually lit himself on fire accidentally. Because he was just goofing around. He accidentally set himself on fire. Had third degree burns on his body. He had to go through rehab. He's been married, divorced. He has a son named Mason Pryor. Mason Pryor humiliated himself a couple years ago on the Apollo with Steve Harvey, where he tried to. Mason Pryor, we know Richard Pryor died in 2005. He actually was in a wheelchair for a couple years of his life. He couldn't move his body, because he had some kind of disease. He kind of shakes a lot, but he actually guest starred in a couple of sitcoms too. But his son Mason Pryor looked up to his father. His son is in his 30s. He looks exactly like his father, but he's very light skinned, has a little afro. But he went on the Apollo, very nervous, and he was doing pretty well up until the Donald Trump joke, and the people started booing him, and you kind of felt sorry for his son Mason Pryor. His son Mason Pryor wants to be just like his father Richard Pryor. So hopefully one day, maybe if he does a lot of training, he works really, really, really hard, and doesn't give up, he may be the next Richard Pryor. He may be just like his father Richard Pryor. But Mr. J here, peace.